Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Quake Pro League. We're going back in for more exhilarating Quake action, and I'm not alone on this quest. Joined by the magnificent man himself, Harry Lethal. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad. Looking forward to this week. Got some great bunch of games coming up to us very shortly, and some interesting ones as well. Definitely a clash of styles, and see how things get up to by the end of the day.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. It's always a treat when I'm with you, Harry, so I can't wait to get into some exhilarating games, mate.
Yeah, it should be very good. I'm looking forward to it. Also, the standings are very close in terms of the points and how things will shape up by the course of the evening. So yeah, curious to see how things pan out.
Yeah, we can have a look at the standings as well, Harry. We might as well step straight into them and see how the tournament has been shaping up. If you are coming in, you may notice a couple of changes, as obviously the weeks have been getting deeper and deeper here into Stage 4, and there has been a few shake-ups. One of the mainstays, of course, that will go unchanged, Rafa still at that top spot. No one can knock him off. Back to active play again and still just farming points, Harry.
At this point in time, yeah, completely agree. Rafa's way too far ahead. He always has been for the God knows how long now. It's been pretty ridiculous. Kilson, though, is actually edging away from the rest of the pack too. But look how close the top 5 is in terms of 3rd to 5th. Cypher, Razy and Dahang all so close between each other. Dahang and Razy same points. Cypher's only ahead by 2. But then again, Wenger has the opportunity to kind of try and break into that top 5 if he keeps up with how consistent he's been playing. And even then, Sidegib, he's actually creeped back into the top 10 with also Chain.
No, that is surprising. It's good as well to see Chain at least getting back into that top 10, even if he is coming in, obviously, just scraping his way through at 9th place there. He needs to try and stay in that upper side of things, Harry, because I think he's really one of the more devoted players we've seen come out of North America. Same can be said about Sidegib. So for them two to be into that spot, that's huge. That's a great result. It is a shame, though, because it means we've got some of the other big names that have fallen out a little bit. Need to see a bit more from Tox towards the end of this, as we are really in crunch time now. This is the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Tox has always been known for having such great mechanics and fundamentals. He's definitely the sort of guy you would not want to try and get into an LG fight with. But then again, with Quake, it's not aim alone. It's, of course, the movement, the positioning, how well you try and execute certain plays, and, of course, how you adapt to your opponent. He's been struggling a little bit here and there in terms of adaptation and how he wants to try and do certain things in different matchups. But his aim is still there. But like I mentioned before, accuracy can't be the only thing taking you into each game you play.
No. And talking of games that will be played, we can have a look at the matchups that are going to be coming up tonight as well, as we do have the schedule for today's games, Harry. And we're actually in store for quite a few bangers. Having a look at the schedule, obviously, when the tweet went out tonight, I was actually taken back by some of the matchups we've got. They look to be exciting.
Very excited to say the least, and there's, like you said before, so many matchups and so many different styles we're going to see this evening. Base and Sparty is going to be the first one to start off with to see how things will pan out from there. Zanaku versus Chain. Zanaku has been practicing really hard. He's been on a real grind, and we've noticed that because he's sided in Europe at the moment, he's been practicing against all the professional EU players, and he's lost most of them, don't get me wrong, but it's all about practice. In terms of duel, you need a lot of experience underneath your belt, which he has done. So I'd like to see how much he's progressed, and it'll be a true factor to see how well he can do. A true test, you could say, against Chain again as well. Awoken versus Wenger, another highly aggressive match, and that will be. And Effortless, he has fallen off quite a lot this stage. We can all agree on that. But against Sidegib, it will be another tall order. But I really hope Effortless manages to step up his game this time round.
Yes, the first 4 matches set to at least have a couple of gems sprinkled into the mix. Moving on from that, we get into our second 4 that we got lined up for the night. G-Nick Dahang to kick us off. So obviously getting to see a little bit more of the main man, Dahang. He was sporting the new Hulk jersey, Harry. He looked absolutely dashing in it. Did you manage to catch that?
I did. He looked fabulous in it, didn't he? I
actually
wanted it myself. I wanted to buy myself that jersey. It looks so good. But speaking of Dahang, anyway, for G-Nick, it will be a tall order. It's a big ask to say if he can get that W, but that's going to be a waiting question to see if G-Nick has anything in the tank to try and get anything done. CNZ versus Cypher, another great matchup. Razy versus Kilson, huge, definitely one to watch throughout most of the stage. And both of these players are high fraggers. They do everything in their way possible to force out mistakes rather than waiting for mistakes to happen. So expect to see fireworks during that game. And Rafa versus Nosfer, we know how well and how good Rafa is. Anyway, Nosfer's played a little bit more unorthodox compared to what he was last stage, so we'll see if he can put up a better fight compared to what he did back in stage 3.
Oh man, no, I'm really looking forward to that Razy Kilson game. That's always an enjoyable match whenever those two fight up against one another, because it feels a bit like a grudge match at times. You can see the emotion truly come out from Kilson in a lot of those games. So match 7 could be a real good slobber knocker. Definitely tune in for that one. Let's bring it back a little bit though, Harry, and of course talk about the first game of the night. Base versus Spart1e is where we're going to open things up. To kick us off, what are your opening thoughts on this match?
Sparty is going to possibly ride the struggle bus here, because Base, he is the kind of player where he will not take a fight unless it's in his terms, no one else's. He will not push it. He will not force them to mistake. He will sit back day and night until he knows that he has some kind of incredible advantage. And that's kind of how Cooler plays. But with Cooler, the difference between Cooler and Base is the fact that Cooler has kind of perfected it and mastered it a lot more in comparison. He kind of knows how and when to do it because of the amount of experience he has. But Base isn't too far behind. And it is a real pain in the backside to play against someone like that, because you know that if you play in the same style as Base, then it's going to be the kind of matchup where it's like, you know, you're not really used to the style of how you want to do things. You have to tighten up your game a lot more. But Spart1e, he hasn't really got much of a tight game, but then again, he's not very defensive either. He's a very open player. Some days you may see him, he's playing very fast, aggressive, and try and adapt in any way he can. Sometimes he doesn't. It's a weird mixed bag, but I'm sure with Base, it depends on the maps as well. If Spart1e maybe gets a map like Vale, he could be okay because it is one of his better maps. But then again, it is for Base too. He holds top mid very well.
Yeah, no, the issue is with a matchup like this for me is it's really hard to call, because Base, I feel like we've seen him improve so much throughout the stages. You know, he was a dark horse for me back in Poland because I thought he was one of the players that could really show up massively in that kind of environment, and he did. His playstyle still proves a hard point for some players to be able to counter, right? That slow, really grueling pace where as soon as he gets that first frag, he'll run that all the way to the gauntlet, just straight to the end, and be able to live with just one kill to try and get wins. And I don't know if Spart is the sort of player to be able to counter him going in. Although he is a bit of a Swedish superstar, Harry. When we see Spart1e in full form, it is enjoyable to watch. He is a very fun player to see when he's in the arena. So it just needs real signs of life coming out from Spart1e here. I feel like looking at it just for the matchup that it is, you've got to have all eyes on Base.
In terms of the leaderboard and stats, Spart1e is a must-win for him now. He's still dancing around that relegation zone. I think he needs at least 2 or 3 wins to make anything happen, or at least some 3-0s to kind of catch up with the rest of the pack in the EU region. So Spart1e, I think he knows now that the pressure is on. He's slowly getting deeper into the second half of stage 4, and he can't afford any more mistakes. And against Base, it's very difficult because Base is the kind of player who will wait for them. He will wait for him to charge and, you know, do some kind of mistake which he doesn't want to try and make up for or expect. But Spart1e does have enough skill, he has enough caliber to try and make something happen. I'm just hoping it's not too little too late, because if he loses this match, he's already demoralised as it is, and I'm hoping that his mentality doesn't go straight down, because we know what Base can be like. Base is a very, very good player. Fundamentally, he's quite good, but it's the fact that he waits to take the fights on his terms. That's one of the main priorities for Base. And Spart1e knows exactly what Base is like as a player. He knows that he needs to be a bit more cautious of how he executes him in terms of how he wants to try and move in and try and finish up or clean up some of those frags. So we'll have to wait and see what Spart1e's got up his sleeve.
Yeah, if he has any tricks to be able to actually overpower big man Base. Base has been looking better and better for the most part, week in, every time we see him. It seems like he's got more of an adaptation plan now. It's not just about only that slow style of Quake. He will actually switch it up. He is a bit more dynamic. We've seen him being able to turn that tempo, which has helped him an awful lot. And in terms of the veto, we can see if this is going to help him or if it will hinder him, Harry.
Well, the first map being Veil, this is something Spart1e needs. Last week he did beat Razy, I think it was by about 4 frags last time, so at least he's got kind of the morale to go into the first map knowing that he could also take base. But base, Razy, completely different styles, so it's very hard to tell what he can do. But I'm glad Spart1e at least banned Blood Run, because we know base can be a little bit annoying on Blood Run in terms of how he'll get the first couple of frags and then try and wait out and listen out for those audio cues. Crutcher Keat's been taken out, which is fair enough. It's not one of Base's best maps, probably one of his weakest. Molten Falls chosen by Base as well, which is quite interesting to see exactly how things pan out. And Awoken as the final map. Sparty's of course very good on that too. And we noticed that with the champions, got Galena versus Ranger, Doom versus Visor. Now, if anyone doesn't know or hasn't been up to date in terms of the patch notes, you know, Doom isn't actually the silent protagonist he once was. He hasn't got that perk. So when he hits 50 or 25 HP or, you know, dies by the end of the frag, then he will make some sound cues in order to show that he is actually weak. So only a small, tiny adjustment, but it can help in some ways, depending on if you want to chase your opponent or not.
Yeah, I mean, an extra audio cue could help you out in those small intricacies. I doubt it's really going to change many things, but yeah, it is a tidbit obviously worth taking note of there for a change coming in for Doom. One of the few changes we've had really over the course of the entire league. I think the only other notable one was obviously Strog getting the crouch slide back. That was a bit of a game changer. But in terms of the matchup at hand, obviously coming in here, Harry, starting off on Veil, then Molten and Awoken, it feels like we've been served up a classic platter of a game. These are the 3 maps that I'd really expect to see coming out here in a match like this. You got like the meat and potatoes and Molten in the middle, right? That's like the big hearty dish that will gobble down. Awoken, that I can only imagine will probably lead more towards a bloodbath. Don't feel like Base will be able to abuse his preferred playstyle as much on Awoken. Veil, though, it could work out for him, right? Lots of close corridors, lots of tight angles. It really is a claustrophobic map. If he starts off on the right foot forward and Spart1e just can't slow him down, I do have some worries there for Spart1e on Veil. Feel like that one could barrel out of control far more than the others.
Yeah, Base abuses top mid and keeps any kind of height advantage he can, no matter how weak he is a real nuisance when it comes to at least contesting most of the items on this. But Spart1e played really well against Razy last time, so there's no reason why he can't do it against Base. But like I mentioned earlier, Base, Razy, completely opposite ends of the stick, completely different styles. But I want to see what Spart1e can do here. If he can take this first map, maybe he can make something happen and keep that consistency going throughout map number 2 and 3.
Well, we won't have to wait much longer to step into this, as our first series is going to kick off. Base versus Spart1e. Straight in on the Ranger, and it looks like he wants to try and scrap his way into this one immediately. Up with the Dire Orb, firing out those warning rockets. Issue is, he's going to hear warning sirens in his head, Harry. Spart1e is already low, down to 40 stack. He's got to try and peel off and rebuild himself up.
He certainly does indeed. Manages to get the LG, keeping that height advantage and waiting for the next heavy to turn up, but he knows Base may go for it, but it looks like Base will be going towards that Mega. The Tribolt came out just to make Base think that he's actually going back, but instead the LG comes through. It's not looking too good for Spart1e. He's only on 20 HP, he needs to back away for the time being. Base is on the chase, and it doesn't matter anyway as Base cleans up, nicely done. Gets a little bit of HP back from the totem. Goes for the first rail. Will he go for the second? Second, he barely misses. Going to try once more to see if he can clean up. Almost managed to get the job done, and yes, he does. 3 out of 4, can't be bad.
No, that was nice. Confidence there to just hold the angle as well, and it seems like he might be given a freebie straight after. Spart1e diving in, missing with the close range shots. Rocket after rocket. Base just fires at his feet, boops him up in the air, making him look like a... what were they called, Harry? Not Space Invaders, Space Hoppers.
Oh, yeah.
Like a human space hopper. 3-0 already. Base starting off fantastically into this one, looking like he wants to try and keep it going as well. As he busts out the LG, rips his way through Spart1e. And normally we talk about those slow games where Base gets 1 frag and he tries to, you know, run it the whole way towards the end. Right now, the only thing he's running into is Spart1e for another fight, second after second. He wants a war right now.
What I love what Base is doing now, as you can see, he's just trying to clean him up. He won't be able to as he gets the Mega, hits the first rail. Will he be able to get the second? Gets the shotgun now anyway and cleans up beautifully. But look at the strategy Base is doing. Constantly going back to rockets every single time, making sure that he can't get the opportunity to try and pick up the rockets if you can. Leaves a totem on there on purpose to show signs that there's a possibility that Spart1e is actually pushing in for the rockets. But at the same time, Base, every time he gets that frag or manages to take down Spart1e, he goes for the spawn trap on rail every single time and gives himself time to do it. He's going to try and go for the 6th if he can. Beautiful rockets, but doesn't finish up in the end as Spart1e has a rail of his own. At least gets that first frag on the board. Still got plenty of time to catch up here.
And that looks sick as well. I was living for that. The rockets just consistently knocking him over. I thought we were going to have the smooth rocket to rail combo and he'd get another frag on the board already. But Spart1e does turn up. He arrives to the scene of the crime and is able to behead Base at least once. Can he get much more out of this, though? He is going to go back on the hunt, chasing him down, turns around the corner with a rail out, fires off the warning shot, but that's basically all it's going to be. Although, after getting himself the Mega, he's got a good advantage going into this. He can try and cut him off on a rotation, takes a rocket to the side of the cheek, does just buff it out, and keeps on hunting for him. He's able to build the stack back up as he roams as well. Spart1e, if he plays his cards right here, should be able to bully his way back in for at least a second frag. Doesn't need to rush things though. He's got tons of time and he's currently just playing the basics. And that's working well for him. You get those major items. You start to lock down the rotations. If he gets both here in one full rotation, he's locked and loaded.
Base is in no position to be able to contest any of these items at the moment, but he needs to try and get away if he can. Did a huge amount of damage there, considering the circumstances he was in, but it doesn't matter as already Spart1e only got 2 frags to his name, managed to get the Mega, get the lights to back him up a little bit more. But he won't get the heavy. Base managed to actually contest it and grab the item quite well, and Spart1e's lost that height advantage as he's going in on Base here. Some beautiful rails as he's going to try and flank round and needs to try and find these totems if he can as well, because Base does have 2 totems up soon to be 3.
For Spart1e, seems like he's just dropping 90s all over the gaff with this rail. Goes for the bold play, gets a bit brash as he bombards his way around the corner. Does a nice amount of damage, but Base starts to buff it back out. Scraping his way around, scavenging those light pickups to heal himself. The chase is back on. Spart1e going from the top rope. Good predictive rocket. Makes his move across as he grabs the heavy, and Base is low once more. But the issue is, he's getting him low, but he can't capitalize. He's not being able to finish him off here, and so much time is being wasted. Base not able to close the gap, not able to get out of there. Spart1e will chase. Spart1e will leap on him like a cheetah and take him down as we hit the 5-minute mark. 5-3 on the split.
Spart1e now's looking very good, and it's already halfway through. Still got plenty of time to get those 2 additional frags to his name in order to tie things up. Finds the 2 totems. It took a while because Base was always around the area and then would try and run away. The LG at the time. Beautiful orb there. Managed to get high advantage back from Base. Another nice rocket. Maybe one more should do it. It's so weak at this point in time. Oof. Manages to clean up nicely. Barely on 19 HP. Gets the Mega, gets the light. And now it's going to try and contest this heavy. His Base is not looking too good here as the rockets come in flying. There's going to be another frag now. Spart1e ties things up.
It feels like Spart1e's actually just playing really well here on Veto, Harry. Like, the predictive rockets that have been coming out have been nice. He's hitting his rails, movements on the ball, quick decision-making as well with the Dire Orb. He actually looks pretty damn good tonight. I didn't catch the game versus Razy, but I know that was close. Didn't he take a map as well? Yeah,
Spart1e actually took down Razy on this exact same map, and I wouldn't even say it was a fluke. He played it really well, down to a T, and how well should be played. But this is the problem. If you're the player on the back foot or like to wait for the engagements to come to you, it's rare it can happen. So Base needs to be absolutely on top of things with his tracking, aim, his rail, everything needs to be done. But Spart1e just catches him off guard on so many different occasions. He could get taken down here, but barely manages to survive. At least he's on 71 HP. He's backing off for now. We'll find another totem to his name, so at least that way he can get it away. One more totem he'll find, so at least most of the totems taken down. As Spart1e needs to try and get away. He's in an awful position. Luckily that rail did miss. And Base is still somehow being very aggressive considering his stack.
I'm so surprised he got the fadeaway rail as he was getting out. Spart1e seemed to be like the worst possible position there, just trapped, acid all around, but instead he's the one just dropping bombs on his opponent. A clean tag with the rail, being chased down, and Base isn't really scared at this point. Seems like the confidence is starting to come back out. The predictive rockets are still doing work for Spart1e. One after another, he's hitting these shots, puts himself on the pedestal, goes for the peek round the corner with the tri-bolt, firing out the warning shots. Couple of detonations here and there, slowing down the course of the game. But it is tied. 5 frags to 5 frags, 7 minutes on the clock. Major items being snatched away though. Base being able to use those as a huge bit of utility to build himself up. So he's really able to get in the thick of it. Goes for the dive through the porter. Response with the rockets. Rail on the near miss. Spart1e not quite able to hit his shots when it matters most. He needs to back off and stay alive.
The base is waiting for him. You saw that he's walking towards the rockets. Gets the first one. Will he get the second? No, well, Elite gets the LG frag anyway. Both of them trade. The Mega's still up, but base spawns in right in front of the heavy, but it doesn't matter. Sparty gets the Mega for himself, so it doesn't matter too much here. And in all fairness, base was running out of weapons in his arsenal in terms of the ammo count. Almost a nice rocket there, but standing no damage is done. Nice prediction though. Sparty's going to try and drop down for him, but base manages to get away.
Base. He's still just looking for that one frag of leeway to put himself in a good position, but right now it is just a complete brawl between the both of them. Spart1e trying to Goomba stomp him, jumps on his head time after time with a pile driver, but the response from base is absolutely outrageous. Shot after shot, he not only takes him down, he gets the quick follow-ups off, he leaves Spart1e limping as he barely gets away with his life. And now you've given base exactly what he wants, that one frag advantage when you're getting down towards crunch time. Oh, if he hit that rail, Harry, he might have just bumped him enough to knock him out of the way of the teleporter. That could have been hideous.
We would have said CLA against Spart1e, no doubt about that, as still Spart1e trying to do everything he can. He's so weak. If he goes for that telly, he could be asking for trouble, but manages to back away, and base was thinking to himself probably that that could have been another frag, but Spart1e just managed to get away. But we've got 1 minute left now. Spart1e's back to his default stack, but if base takes him down here, it could be a different story. Base has done, and even though it's not the 3 totems anymore, still doing a lot of damage. A huge punch it. The rockets are coming through, and that was beautiful from base once again as he extends his lead. Only 45 seconds left remaining. I think this is too much to call, as Sparty could be losing in map number 1.
Yeah, clean, decisive fights towards the end here from base. The rockets just paying dividends as well. Base is using it like a shotgun on some of the angles. Oh, look at him. He's absolutely living it at the minute. Sparty, he kept it close, but base, he's kicked it up to 11 in the final minute of this game. Just hitting some sickeningly good shots. This has been a treat to witness.
It really has been. You know, Sparty didn't really have much choice. He had to push up. He was behind. He had to make some of the high-risk plays, which normally you know full well that Sparty wouldn't make. But it's just one of those things. Base played that very clean. It was his pick as well, so it did show that he did have something up his sleeve, which he did, especially with the totems. But look at the item control. You saw there Sparty did have a bit more, and at one point, base only had 4 heavies and 4 megas at one stage. So he did a huge amount of damage chipping away, and it is very hard to chip away at your opponent on a map like Vale. So well done to base, sir.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was actually quite a tight matchup the entire way through on Vale. The scary factor is normally it feels like base is able to pull himself ahead in the early game, right? And then he'll just sort of squirrel that away and live it. Whereas that time, it was more sort of classic Quake. It was a tight matchup. They were just fighting, playing the basics for the major items. Then we saw base just starting to peel out towards the end, but in more of a flamboyant fashion. It was more just his fragging capability and the gun skill that won him that one, if I'm honest, Harry.
Yeah, base, don't get me wrong, in terms of his mechanics and his gun skill, he looked very, very solid most of the time, but he was absolutely just down to a T. It's just been ridiculous, hasn't it? Especially with his rails, his predictive rockets, his defensive rockets especially. There were so many occasions that Sparty could have easily taken him down, but just left no room for error. And you can probably see why he chose Galena. He knew that he was going to be on the back foot most of the time. Sparty wasn't always going to push in willy-nilly and just try and get anything done. So he left a lot of the totems on the stairs near the light around the rail side. And it was a good strategy. Sometimes even had 3 totems up, which is quite rare on a map like Vale.
Yeah, and it is that beneficial little trump card you can pull out, right? As soon as you start letting things get out of hand, you've got that over heal basically on hand as a little pocket heal. You can drop it down, gets you back into the fight, keeps you in the game. And it is those minute adjustments of stack that really do win you those fights. That's what we saw for the most part. Base, he was barely scraping his way out of encounters with like 30, 40 stack left. So he needed that extra margin to really keep it close. But as you can see from the replays, like the quality of the game was good. Spart1e definitely showing that he can still hit some disgusting shots. It wasn't a fluke versus Razy. There clearly is that growth that's there. Spart1e's looking back on form.
It definitely is indeed. I'm looking at Base's LG at the moment, and his tracking aim is just ridiculous beyond belief. But even then, his rockets, his rail, the entire trinity of all three weapons, it's just remarkable. It's a pleasure to see. But that's the thing with the LG. You need to have a calm aim with the LG to at least keep it in check and to make sure that no matter what situation you're in, you've got to be calm, you've got to be patient. And it's a lot to think about considering some of the positions you could put yourself in, especially on a map like Vale. But he did it beautifully. It was well played by Base, a lot better than I expected.
No, it was good. It was a great opening matchup to start us off on. In terms of the series, that obviously that is Base taking an early lead there with the first map. In terms of response going into the second map, it is going to be Molten Falls. Now, this is a Doom pick for Base and a Visor pick for Spart1e. Molten's a hard one, Harry, because I feel like it doesn't really matter what we say about Molten. Half the time, it just goes out the window once we get on the server. It tends to erupt into either a ridiculous bust-up or one of the more quiet games. It feels like there is no middle ground with Molten.
I was going to say that it's going to be a little bit more quiet in comparison to what we see previously with games with Basin in terms of Molten Falls. But the way he's playing, I would say he's more adaptable compared to actually being a bit more patient, because he's adapting to players' styles a lot better. You can see that he's more confident in his shot. He's had a few warm-ups and scrims before today, definitely, you can tell. But I feel like there could be a bit more chaos compared to what we've seen previously.
I hope so. I'd subscribe to the idea. I wouldn't be against it. I feel like it'd be good to see a bit more of the Spart1e shine as well, the little sparkle in his eye, because he normally is the life of the party. We were seeing a bit of it there, right? Like the frags he was actually pulling out, some of them were really nice shots. The rail work in that game was tremendous. That was what was really getting me. And that was only the first map as well. So if there's more to come out of Spart1e, I'm down for it. I want to see it. I feel like he is one of the players in the league that we've always asked more of, because we know, obviously, historically from his heights, how good he used to be and how exciting he can be when he's at his peak. Will he show us any more on the Visor? Can he get a map back versus Base here on Molten? Time will tell, but we are into the matchup, Harry.
Sparty going with the Visor, I think just more due to the fact that Base doesn't really give much away in terms of the audio cues and his footsteps, his movement, or maybe sometimes his defensive rocket placements. So Sparty has decided to go with the piercing sight just in case. Does find Base here, realises that he hasn't really got much damage done here. Pushes in with the LG to see what he can do. Only taking a little bit of damage, but Base has come back up. Looking for him, and Sparty uses that piercing sight to see if he can try and clean up. No, he doesn't. Base manages to survive. Get the first frag on the board. Looking a little bit bleak to start here, Jack.
Not the dream scenario. This isn't really what you'd be hoping for if you are in the Spart1e camp. For Base, though, he's going to be licking his lips with that opening result. That's the dream for a player like Base. You get that opening frag, not even a minute into the matchup. You can then lock down your side of the map here on Molten, as he does just hold towards mid, back there by the heavy. He knows he can just play off the rotation. He's got 8 seconds till heavy's back up. For Spart1e, it's all about audio cues. He's skulking his way around, ears perked up, listening out, decides to just dive into the fight. As he makes his move across, he can pick up the heavy. He denies it against Base. He's hitting all of his rockets, but he's going to lose out on the encounter. He goes down, Harry. His Base will best him once again. He might be low, but he still walks away standing tall.
Oh, that was ridiculous. And even though he burnt the heavy, at least he's done something there to try and not make the impact too great for the next frag. It doesn't matter now as Base. It's almost back to default here. Sending back, gets the first rail. He's going to try and get the second one if he can. The LG stays out. He's going to see if he jumps down, which he does. And this is the moment Base has been waiting for. One more shot could have done it, but decides to back away for the time being as Base is just trying. Sit back for now. He knows the Mega's coming up next in the next 10 seconds. Sparty's just keeping that height advantage over to the Mega to see if he can make a trap for Base, but decides to realise that now Base is underneath, so the LG comes through. Sparty does get the mega, but doesn't really get much damage done. Sparty's very weak. He's going to make an effort to try and contest the heavy. He needs to be really careful, though, as base is hugely stacked and basically going to probably try and go straight in as he misses the first rail. Misses the second. He's going to try and get the third, but still hasn't picked out yet. This is the fourth, which is a little bit uncharacteristic compared to what we saw on Veil.
It is. And so much was wasted in the space of that fight as well. Obviously, he was able to pick up the mega. We saw Denial with a heavy, and the response is for the rotation to start again as the cycle will continue. Spart1e back over to mega. They both race their way towards heavy. Nice rocket! Oh, and that certainly isn't a nice rocket. Spart1e turning himself into Sparty soup. Oh, and it's only going to get worse as well as he responds around a corner, nearly being blown off the edge. But it will just be his corpse that cascades down to the bottom of that cavern. Oh, Harry.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it, Jack, at this point in time? Sparty trying to get anything going. Nice direct rocket, though, going up the stairs. That was, you know, the damage has been done, but at least he gets the first one on the score screen. But even then, it's quite difficult. Like, base, I feel like he's already downloaded Sparty. He understands exactly his route and what he does. As soon as he goes for the mega, he goes up to the LG ramp straight away. But Sparty, though, it's a little bit different. He's the one in control. He's the one who can decide the odds on what he wants to do and why, and the piercing sight comes in, knows exactly where base is, gets some nice damage with the tri-bolt, misses the first rail, but it's going straight in deep with those rockets, backs it away for the time being, but it's going to try and contest for the mega anyway, doesn't get it, but the LG comes through beautifully with the rail combo afterwards. He needs to be careful though. Base is decided to back away for now. Spart1e gets to heavy, and things have neutralized just a little bit. But if he hit that rail, base would have been taken down, but it's going to go the other way. Misses the second one. It's like he's trying to make sure I don't get the chance to breathe here. Jack is finally, he backs away.
It's interesting as well, because this is now like the role reversal happening of what we were seeing previously. In terms of the positions, right? It's not base being the one lurking around, looking to do damage and try and deny the major items. That's what Sparty's doing. Whereas base, he's coasting from heavy to mega, but never being able to pick it up, just being bullied off it. Spart1e swinging his weight around with that increased stack, and it's causing base to be absolutely terrified in every single one of these encounters. Finally, with a bit more confidence, but still quite low on the stack side of things, he does try and make his move. He peeks out with the rail, but it's misses Harry. 3 shots to be precise have all whizzed by and done nothing onto Spart1e. The LG starts to live up to its name though, causing a bit of carnage. Spart1e taking some self-damage as well, has to back out. Rocket jumps out of there, knowing that there's 3 seconds still heavy. He has to play around this, and it's pivotal that he picks it up. Gets it uncontested. We hit the 5-minute mark. He's down 2 frags, and he's only got 2 rockets left. Fires out the first, there goes the second to no avail. He can be pushed, and base needs to capitalize here. Get another frag on the board, take a decisive lead, and put yourself on 4, as Spart1e is knocking on death's door. How is he even still alive at this point, Harry?
This is ridiculous. Ring around the rosy with the telly here. Finally he's been taken down. Took a little bit of effort there from base. As you can see, Spart1e was just kind of trying to re-peek to find out where his opponent is and then try and turn around if he could. That was well played by Spart1e, don't get me wrong. He did a great job just trying to stay alive, but it was just a little bit too much there. It was just a matter of time, kind of delaying the inevitable. Spart1e now still taking the same routes every time. He needs to try and be a little bit less predictable if he wants to try and counter base's playstyle here. So now he's going to push him from the top. Base is just sitting there waiting for him. LG comes through, so do the Rockets. First couple isn't the best, but that's a beautiful one to try and at least make something happen here. I think he did 56 there. Nice tri-bolt. Backs away for now. He needs to make sure to see if he can try contest this mega. He's going to go around to the light side, gets the first rail. He's going to push him with the rockets, but he's trying to get close to him. But base's defensive rockets are just good enough in order to pick up that mega and back off for now. But it doesn't actually get it. Spart1e jumps down for it anyway, cleans up with the LG. This is Spart1e's opportunity to get a comeback going here.
It does normally feel like Sparty's rockets are really his party poppers, and that's why he's the life of the party. Like, he goes around corners just tearing you to pieces with them, hitting shot after shot. Right now, he's got like 1.4k damage with it, 41% accuracy, but he's still being able to use the rest of that arsenal to great avail, right? The quick transition to the LG in fights has been nice, and there's a display of his footwork when it comes to using the rail as well. A sniper with a hell of a scope as he goes around the first corner, takes down base in the opening encounter. Now you're only one frag down. This is recoverable. And you can see he's amped up. He's playing with confidence. The energy is flowing through him because some of the peaks he's going for are just so bold. There's so much confidence behind him. It is crazy to witness. Time is getting down to the wire, though. There isn't really a lot left here on Molten. So for Spart1e, needs to make full use of that ability. Piercing Sight comes through. With the aid of the visor, he charges in. 2 tacks, looking for more. Bullies him off the Mega. Nearly got the fadeaway love tap as well. But he has at least caused him to run the entire way around. Darting over to Heavy. Timing's in favor of Spart1e. And it looks like he might have won the item for free.
Base literally had no choice. He had to back away at that time. Still got the stack advantage, but not after that rail. It's pretty even here, and Sparty misses the rail again. He needs to be a bit more watchful in terms of how he tries to not miss these shots pushing in. Misses the rail again. This is, again, uncharacteristic. Not just of Base before, but now Sparty. But at least it gets to Heavy. He can recover a bit more. And now, patiently waiting, needs to keep up with these hourglasses as well, because he hasn't really got much time left. Yeah, sure, he's got the piercing sights, but he's only got about 2, maybe 3 remaining, depending on how many hourglasses he can actually pick up. But Base does have the stack advantage, only slightly, so Sparty needs to be careful. He knows what Base is like. He could be creeping around, knows the exact location, but he's taking a lot of damage from that LG. Again, missing these rails. It's so important for Sparty to try and hit these at somehow, some way. But remember, Jack, he's only 1 frag behind it. He can easily do this if he gets the right play.
He can, but the issue is, as an opponent like Base will start to squirrel. He'll start to hide. He'll start to just bob and weave, evade and avoid at every given outcome, right? And with 60 seconds to play with, that's him living his movie in prime time. He'll be so happy with this as a potential play. So Spart1e has to set the pace. He's the one that needs to engage and chase, and he is trying to. Goes around the corner, picks up the Heavy. It might buff out some of the damage, but it won't sustain him. It won't keep him alive. Look how low he is on stack. He's got to scavenge those bubbles, barely build himself back up into a stable position. And with 30 seconds left to fight, it's do or die. They essentially have 1 more fight left into this. And Spart1e has to be the instigator, the wicked fire starter, as he drops around the corner with the rockets, couple of shots going out, near misses Harry. Now is not the time that he can start dropping his accuracy with that LG and the rail. He's been pumping out shots with it, and he starts to come alive once again. Oh, but the turn, Base going round the corner, an easy cleanup on the LG. That is that. It's set in stone. There's no chance now for Spart1e. Base already in with a series win. That's 2 maps.
Base put himself in a position where Spart1e could not go on the bounce pad because he'll just get LG'd and then cleaned up. Base was always, it's like I mentioned earlier, he is the player who will only fight on his terms. If it's not on his terms, he will back away as far as you can imagine. It's ridiculous. And look at the item control as well. Base did a nice amount of damage, another 450 more than his opponent. He had 9 heavies, 4 megas, but then again, look at Spart1e. He had all the items in the world, but doesn't matter how much control you have if you've got someone like Base playing like that. At the end, you saw there, like I mentioned just now, he had the LG advantage on the bounce pad. Spart1e could not go back up. And even if Spart1e tried to flank, you saw there, but Base get the rail off. Base always made sure he had that height advantage or just had that control enough, even though he had a weaker stack. But Spart1e had absolutely no way to push. It was impossible for him. And even if he could, you know, Base would have to miss a lot of his shots in order to get anything happening there.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate, right? That's why it gets to a point where, like, as soon as I saw the 60 seconds left, I was like, the issue is, Harry, you know, you always have to keep in the back of your mind, you're playing against Base. He is the king of defense. He's like a human walking tower defense game. He'll just turret himself down, knock down, hold an angle, play around a major item, and absolutely bully you when you came in. And it seemed like maybe there was a chance as the shots came around, a few close shots, a couple of near misses, but as soon as he got tagged with that rail, you've got 15 seconds left, you drop down, that's it, you've met your maker, it's done and dusted. It's a shame, because it seemed like Spart1e was going to keep it close, maybe pull it back, maybe give us one of those Molten overtime games that we've had quite a few of throughout the season, so wouldn't be the biggest change of pace. Not meant to be, though. Base locking it down already, and he's farming points out of this series now. He's got the potential to go on, get the full 3-0. If he dominates here on Awoken as well, that's a lot of points.
Yeah, it'll be laughing at this stage. We know for base. It's not one of his strongest maps, but it's not one of his weakest maps either. As long as he keeps that top mid control on Awoken and makes sure he pins him down in the LG room, then it should be okay. That last map, I just felt like base adapted to Spart1e straight away. You saw that every time they've both tried to contest for the Mega, he would go up the LG ramp and try and contest the Heavy from there every single time. Spart1e, I think, did it, from what I counted, at least 3 times in a row in the first few minutes. And base knew that every single time. That's why he preemptively just fired rockets every single time at roughly around the same time as Spart1e would come in. He just became a little bit predictable all at the same time. base just adapted, downloaded him. But even then, base always struggles when he's on the back foot, but at the same time always keeps the advantage of making sure it's in his terms, and he will not make so many mistakes if base pushes in certain areas. But then again, at the end, base always, you could say, came a little bit more predictable, standing around the light area of Mega, assuming that he's going to come from middle or never going to come from rockets. So you saw from there, from the piercing sight, base always expected him to come from one route every single time, just walking around to see if he can at least pin Spart1e down if he pushes in too quickly. But then again, it wasn't enough. It was just too little too late by then, and Spart1e left himself way too open.
Oh, yeah, he did. Just a little bit susceptible to the attack. It's unfortunate. Let's set our gaze towards Awoken then. Obviously, last map in the series. As we touched on, it is a little bit of a harder map to play that sort of style. Just smaller in terms of its, its actual size. It is a smaller map. You do have a lot more aggressive duels normally when we go to Awoken. It tends to be a place for scraps, especially when you've got Spart1e on the Strog and Pika. This man will be able to breeze his way around and get into all sorts of danger. For base, he's gone for the BJ. He's no stranger to a BJ. He knows how to work it well. He's very effective on the champ. He's a good user of the dual wield Harry. We see some very strong akimbo players coming out for him, normally just to ward you off an item, not to ward you off the map, as he sent Spart1e flying. He's splatted outside. He's hit the deck, Harry. He's dead already.
Unbelievable. It's only 35 seconds into the game. Base almost back to his default stack, but knows the location of exactly where Spart1e is. But I like that though from base. Makes up the geo wall just to make sure he backs away for the time being and Spart1e can't attack. But base gets the Mega and knows exactly where Spart1e is positioned. Just trying to be careful on what he's going to do, trying to feed himself information from the tags on the tri-bolt. But base is looking very good, very healthy here. Always continuing on to keep that height advantage, and now he's getting heavy to make matters worse. So Spart1e needs to really be careful on how he gets some chip damage done.
Does need to try and play from a distance, really. Soften him up, remove some of that sustain. Instead, he goes straight past him, flying round the corner with the LG out, basically on a drive-by. Tags him up, but won't be able to bag him. There's no chance. As the Mega spawns back in as well, base will replenish himself and go back on the hunt, with Big Papa Pump coming out to greet Spart1e. 2 barrels of pain, both of them being taken to the face there for Spart1e. He's dropped once again. That's 3 frags in the space of not even 2 minutes here. And he's done it again! No, base! Please, what are you doing?
This is ridiculous. As if he went off the second time, and base is just taking him down again. It's just getting out of control here, Jack. It's just ridiculous. 5-0 already. It's been 2 minutes. The rails have just been on par, on form for base. Base is not letting off the pedal, literally. He's just going full pedal to the metal. And now he knows where Spart1e is again, looking for the rail once more. Backs away, seeing if he goes back to the LG room, which he doesn't. Hasn't got top big control as of yet, but probably best considering Spart1e does have to try and bolt out. Gets the dual with the LG. Gets a nice chunk of damage. 6-0 now. Base is playing incredibly well. He's back to top mid. He might get a 7th here. As Spart1e didn't expect him to pull out so quickly. And there we go, 7-0 here, Jack.
Man, this is crazy. Base, just looking like the Bristol pusher, Harry. He's just pushing Spart1e into the canal over and over again, keeping him wet, never giving him a chance to dry himself off. And he might be covered in his own blood at this rate. Shot up once more, left with no real stack to work with. Actually hits the drive-by shot. A good rail to land for Spart1e, but it won't matter. In the grand scheme of things, base buffs himself back up. He grabs the Mega, and he's gunning for that 8th kill. That was sick. Good predictive play with the tri-bolt. Oh, he follows it up with a snapshot on the rail as well. And that is a beautiful display of how to use your arsenal to your full advantage. Goes through weapon to weapon, shuts it down with the HMG. You love to see it.
I'm loving this right now. I don't think Spart1e expected base to play this style. It's a lot more aggressive. I just feel like base has just got the aim at the moment. It's like super solid. You know, it seems to be more like an aim style which you see from Nosfell or anyone else. Normally base is a bit more cautious than this, but he doesn't care. You can feel the confidence oozing, and what comes with confidence, of course, your aim skill, and it's just absolutely battering Spart1e left, right, and centre. And I don't know what Spart1e can do here. He's very weak. Surely he's going to get taken down in a second once Spart1e pops back out. Yes, he does. Hello, Spart1e. 9-0 now for base.
Man, the frag lead on this series is going to be pretty damn big because base is still building himself a large lead. Rocket after rocket, he's dropping middies, he's dropping bombs all over Sparty. He is not missing right now. This is just disgusting from base. We know he can be a bit of an animal, but this is outrageous. At least there finally is a reply from the hunter. As he'll come through, Sparty will get one, but he needs so much more. We're not even at the 5-minute mark, and there's a 9 frag difference between the both of them, and that now goes back up to 10. Base, as soon as you take the fight against him, it's not going to slow him down. If anything, it looks like it's angered him more, Harry. Like a hornet, he just comes back with a vengeance.
I've literally just had to take off my glasses and clean them to make sure we are watching base and not kill sim, because this is ridiculous. This isn't the same base we normally see, and he's just been an absolute nuisance. That rocket would have been ridiculous if we saw that one. But at this moment in time, it's not even about adaptation or anything like that. Well, I suppose it is to a degree. Base is just picking him apart, knows exactly where he's going to go and why. I said it earlier, he seems to be able to download him quite quickly. He did it in the first 3 minutes of Molten, even though the scoreline was a lot more different in comparison. But he's done it within the first couple of minutes. But when you've got an aim like this, the LG coming through, I don't know what to say here. It's just remarkable.
It is just a bloodbath. It's just a true test of skill coming out at this point from base. I thought we were going to see another ring out, but instead it is just a peak of punishment.
He's giving up, I think, here, Jack.
Oh, mate, there was a minute where like my brain was going, hang on, what's occurring, what's happening here? And then it all just, oh, Harry. He's a Sparty sandwich.
It literally is. Sparty was trying to walk and jump up to the rail rim and he's just like, oh, do you know what? I've had enough. Like, do you know what? Let's just respawn with the default stack, yeah, and just have done with it. I've had enough now. Base 15-1 the scoreline. 6 minutes 20, already trying to spawn trap him again in the LG room. Base stacked up the eyeballs once more. Chill Woods is going to see if he can take Sparty down again. At this point, the damage has already been done here, Jack. I just don't know what to say.
Mate, I don't know. It's just all gone wrong, isn't it? Oh, no, not again! Right, by the way, so what? We've had, like, 3 ring outs, like, 3 suicides. Yeah, what? How is this happening? It's all come to a hodgepodge of just bizarre frags on the final map. Awoken's just some sort of Sparty graveyard, it seems. And he's just beheaded again. He's going to peek up and base will deck him with a rail. This is ridiculous. This is probably one of the weirdest games we've seen the entire season.
It's been a pleasure, though, because base is just moving on form. He's just like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. Base with another beautiful rail. You got to calm down, base. It's still 2 minutes 40. Like, oh, again. Finally, actually, never mind. Oh, okay. I don't know what to say. You may have to take over here, Jack, for the nenext 2.5 minutes because you just can't make this up, can you?
Mate, maybe this is like, you know, the big 400 IQ counter strat. Because obviously normally base just gets 1 frag and leads with it. Maybe Sparty's like, look, anytime I do kill you, I'm just going to kill myself. Then that way, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. 18 frags. I don't know. This is going to be one of the highest suicide tally games I think we've had over the course of the entire Quake Pro League this season. But for base, this is a true test of just how good he can be when he's allowed to essentially run around scot-free and just slam shots off all over the gap. This man is popping off. The rails have been beautiful. The rockets have been lovely to watch. And he's dropping 360s.
This is just... Well, we can definitely make the assumption now that a comeback is not on the cards, as Spart1e at least gets another one to his name. What's he going to do? I do not have a feeling
he's not killed himself. He's not killed himself.
Yeah, I was questioning it at one point, but no, you're right, though. He's
stayed alive. He is dropping the Tetleys, but he's still alive.
That's true. With 1:20 left remaining here, Jack Base is just going to try and make matters worse. Yes, he does. Extends his lead once more. 21-1 with 1:10 left remaining.
What was the ridiculous result we had back from stage one? Was it Sparty versus Garpy that was like nearly 30 frags to something? It was something absolutely ridiculous. There was a bizarre result that came out of stage one. I can't quite remember it, but this is very akin to that in my mind.
It's very close indeed. Yeah, we'll have to look back on that. I might look back on that soonish to update to see exactly what's going on in terms of the scoreline. But 23-1, see what Sparty can do. Not too much, even though Sparty had a slight stack advantage. But Base here, he's just having a laugh really at the moment. It's his playground. He knows the damage has been done. The damage was done after the first 3 minutes. I think we can safely agree on. He's going to cover the telly. Yeah, Sparty pretty much understands now that, yeah, it's just way too little too late. And it was like that about 5 minutes ago. And it's just a shame really. Sparty just pretty much had enough. You know, what can you do against someone who's just not only on form, it's just feeling it in terms of his aim. Oh, that was a wild, wild match. We had a lot of things in just one game, which was ridiculous. Time limits hit 26-1. Base taking that very comfortably.
Here you go, mate.
Shocker.
I found the result. It was Sparty versus Garpy, week 1, stage 1, and it was a 31-1 on Molten Falls. That's what I was thinking of.
On Molten Falls as well. That's pretty bizarre.
So that's the stage 4 equivalent. There you go. Stage 4, week 7, Base versus Sparty. We get a 26-1 on Awoken. That's like the one map that I was looking at and I was going, oh, all right, in terms of the actual veto, this is the opportunity for Sparty to at least deny points, right? And be able to pick up something on Awoken.
Well, he put on a show, didn't he? To a certain extent. I just still can't believe it. I think that one misplaced rocket jump just sent him over the edge. He just had enough. Like, don't get me wrong, the first few minutes he tried to do everything he could, but Base just had his number. When you can adapt that well, like I said, like, you know, with players like Cooler, he has a similar style to Base, but Cooler always knows a bit more when it's in his terms and when he should be a little bit quicker, and it's a lot more natural for him considering the experience he has compared to Base. But Base was playing a lot more like Cooler. He was playing a bit more aggressive. He was trying to get the first shot in a lot more often than usual. It seems like his style is a bit more of a variety in terms of strategy on Awoken compared to most maps. Very interesting.
I also just feel like throughout the season as a whole, like obviously officials compared to like LAN games that we've had, especially when it's like a finals, right? He might play a bit of a different play style. But throughout the course of the online season, through our stages, Harry, it does seem like every time we see Base now, he is willing to be a bit more aggressive. Like it's not just hard stuck in terms of playing the really slow strategic game where he'll never really go overly aggressive and cause you to go into his traps, because that's what he was the master of. He was really good at setting traps, great with playing around the audio and just being a nuisance maker. Whereas now, that is a huge asset to him, but it's not his entire personality on the server. We're also seeing him step up massively in the duels, the firefights he's been reigning supreme. In terms of the aim capability as well, he's starting to go toe-to-toe with some of the absolute best in the business. So it's a wonder to watch now. It feels like he is a complete package, and we're just getting the suicide highlights. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Ollie.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, that was remarkable. But, you know, we can't take it away. Commiseration to Sparty during that game. We know Sparty is he's an amazing player. Always puts the work and time in. But you could just tell that with some of the ring outs he had, it wasn't his day. Yeah, it just wasn't his day. You know, with the one he had when he jumped from the rocket area from the heavy to the rail, you saw from there he just had enough. I wouldn't want to say he gave up. He just like lost the will really to kind of like at least get something going halfway through that game. But it's a real shame because we know how great Sparty is as a player.
It felt like his more mental fortitude just broke into that one, really. And obviously, you know, so it is. Sometimes you have those days. Sometimes you do lose your composure in a matchup like that. It's not the end of the world. But unfortunately, it might be the end for Spart1e in terms of the season, because he's going to be stuck down towards the bottom now. That's a huge amount of points picked up for base as well. So he's going to be just living his movie off the back of that result. He's going to be landed. Scary stuff, Harry. But that is just the first game of the day, of course. There's still more to come up on tonight's broadcast. We have a whole host of games coming up for you, and me and Harry are going to be guiding you through all of the action. So keep it locked here for some more Quake when we come back in with Effortless versus Cygib after the break.